Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to the Education Week. My name is Norman. I'm a product trainer here at BGL, and I'll be your host for this session as we cover some of the data feeds available to you in Simple Fund and Simple Invest 360. Now, before we get underway, we do have to do a few little housekeeping things. First thing is this webinar, just like all the webinars we're running throughout the week, is going to be recorded. So if you do miss anything, that's okay. We'll be sending out a link with the recordings in it, um, most likely due to the end of the education week or early next week. So have a look out for that. Also, for all these sessions, everybody's on mute mode. However, if you do have any questions, and we encourage questions at all these sessions, please feel free to use the Q&A panel in your Zoom application. I'm also joined by a couple of my colleagues that are going to help me out with answering questions and running the session, but also we'll have some time at the end of today, this session at least, to answer any open Q&A questions that you might have. Now, also, if you maybe weren't aware, we are running an education week this week. So that means three webinars each day, all free to attend. So if you haven't done so already, feel free to register yourself for any or even all the webinars. We'll post a link in the chat for you to register. So feel free to register. And again, even if you aren't able to attend the live session, that's okay. Simply by registering, that'll ensure that you get a recording sent to you after the end of the education week. Now, in terms of the products we're showcasing today, or the features within the products that we'll be looking at are the Simple Fund 360 and the Simple Invest 360 products. So Simple Fund, for those of you that aren't aware, that's our SMSF software to help you with your SMSF accounting needs. And also Simple Invest, which is a complete accounting software package. And it's used for managing entities such as trust, companies, and individuals. Now, if you were interested with the other solutions that we do offer at BGL, we've got CAS 360, which is our asset corporate compliance software, and Smart Docs 360, which is our paper to data solution. So it converts documents into data, which can be used for other accounting softwares. So if you're interested in those other products as well, again, register for one of our webinars around those products and learn a bit more, or even give us a call and email us through. We can set you up with a trial or something like that, whatever you like to have a look at. So what are we talking about today? We're talking about data feeds, and specifically a couple of data feeds when it comes into investment transactions. Now, it's been a bit of time just talking about data feeds in general and the importance of data feeds. At least in this day and age with accounting, it's almost mandatory to have data feeds running. It saves you time from having to manually process your funds, but also because we're getting transactions direct from the source, the accuracy is a lot better. We don't have to worry about, let's say, some typos getting in the way of entering and processing funds. Also, something that can't be understated enough is the access to real-time data. So the ability to have transactions as they occur in your entities, as they happen, to give you a better idea of what's actually happening with those entities and make better decisions. Also, it helps with the reconciliation process because with some of these data feeds, you also get the documentation, um, and you get the ability to check between source uh, resources to check if the information is correct. So, with all that being said, the two feeds that we'll be talking about today is our shared data pack and our wrap and platform feeds. So Raven platforms being, your main providers, BT, Panorama, Morgan's Wealth, and the list goes on. And we'll show you a list of all the ones that we do support within the software. So we'll start with this shared data pack itself. Now, what is the shared data pack? So the shared data pack, and some people get confused at the difference between the shared data pack, contract no service, and the registry data service. Hopefully, I can clarify that for you today. So the shared data pack is essentially an add-on to your Simple Fund 360 or Simple Invest 360 subscription. And within that add-on pack, you get access to two data feeds, which is your contract note service data feed and your registry service data feed. So again, it's an add-on to your existing subscription. So it's something you have to pay for to add on. Also, I put a note there that you have the ability to pick and choose. And what I mean by that is as we go through the webinar, you might find, let's say that you have 100 funds on your license or 100 entities on your license. You might find that this might be useful for maybe 25 of your entities that you have. And that's okay. You can choose to apply this add-on to those 25 entities and not have to pay for, the entities that you're not using this for. So you can really pick and choose which entities that you decide to use this add-on for and only pay for those entities. So we'll go into one part of the shared data pack, which is your contract note service. So this makes up one half of the shared data pack, which is your add-on to your Simple Funds and Simple Invest subscription. So what the contract note service does is it automates your buy and sell transactions of shares. So when a transaction happens during the day, overnight, the transaction information actually shows up in your transaction screen. Also, it includes documentation with it, so the contract notes. So the contract notes will also be saved within Simple Fund and Simple Invest 360 in your document screen. And that documentation can be used for other features within the software itself. Now I'll go into the program just to show you how to set this up, but also some of the tips and tricks and things like that that you might need to be aware of. So I'll flip over to the software. Now to set this up, from the left-hand menu, we're going to go into Connect and Feed Management. And it takes us to our feed management screen. Now in our feed management screen, you've got your shared data. So that's for your shared data pack. And one part of it is your contract note feed. Now to set this up on the right-hand side, you'll have a setup button. Now, because I've set this up previously, the setup button isn't appearing there, but this is what it's going to look like, the setup button. I'm going to click on this edit button because that's going to pop up the screen that you'll see when you click on setup. Now, with like a lot of the wizards that you see within our softwares, you simply work your way down the screen, answering and filling in all the other options that you might have there. So we're going to start from the top. Entity name, you've got your entity name. Here's your contract notes email address. Now, the way that this service actually works is you will be going to the brokers for this entity and advising them of this email address. Now, this is an email address that's unique to the entity that you're working on. So no other entity is going to have the same email address as the one that you're looking at. But you would get them to send all the buy and sell documentation to this email address. Now you'll notice that this is a BGL email. So it's an email dedicated for the entity that you're working on. Once the email is received with the documentation in it, our AI bots will scan it and prepare the transactions that relate to that documentation and upload it into your Simple Fund and Simple Invest 360. So the next step is to select your brokers. So you would select from a list of all the supported brokers that we have for this service. And we'll post a link in the chat for all the supported brokers so you can have a look at to see the ones that might apply to you. Now, there's two reasons or two main reasons why this is important to select the brokers. One, it gets the program ready for what information to expect from that's coming into that email address. So it knows, hey, I'm going to receive ComSec files. I'm ready to read them. Second reason is it acts as a filtering mechanism. So let's say that you receive things that aren't necessarily ComSec related to that email address, then it knows to ignore those things. Okay, so essentially you're telling the program, hey, these are the broker files that I need you to focus on when they come through. In the next two fields, this allows you to enter your email addresses. So for example, I can enter my email address in here. And the reason I might decide to do this is, let's say any email going to here, I also maybe want to receive the emails to see what's actually coming through. So if I do want to get that, I can enter my email there. And we do support multiple emails in here. Once I finish typing my email address, I can hit the tab key on my keyboard and then I can enter another one as well and hit the tab key from there. Now we've got a question about brokers. Yes, the answer is yes. So you can select multiple brokers. I believe the limit is 10, if I'm not mistaken. But you can, yes, enter multiple brokers in here. And yeah, just to clarify, the contract note email address will be here under the entity name. Uh, just make sure if you don't see the contract note email address, you have to make sure that this is part of your license as well, that you have access to the shared data pack. So there's something else to keep in mind. Now, forward all emails to, again, the same type of field. So it allows you to enter an email address if you just want a notification whether something comes to the contract note email address that has failed and it hasn't been able to process transactions from it. Next, you've got your broker instructions. So with your broker instructions, this will tell you exactly how to let your brokers know of this contract note email address here. Okay, now the brokers are going to be a little bit different in terms of how they want to be notified. So some of them like you to give them a call. Some of them would like you to fill in a form and submit it. And some of them would like you to head onto their platform, log in, and then go to a specific field to enter those details. The instructions will tell you exactly what to do with your selected broker or brokers from here. So we're going to click on instructions. It's going to download on our computer. And here's an example of one I prepared earlier. But here, this is what it's going to look like. It's got these instructions. You have your entity email in this screen. We'll give you instructions on where to go. And specifically for concept, it does tell you to go into your concept account and update those details. Now we've also got the button back in the program, print letter. So this could be, for example, let's say that you're going to send the instructions to your clients and you want them to update the details with the broker instead of you doing it for them. What you can do is you can accompany those instructions with this letter. And this is something that can be addressed to your clients. Just let them know, hey, this is the instructions, this is what it's about. Yeah, go ahead and follow the instructions, please. But the main thing is getting that email up and running with your broker. Now, the next thing is going to be for link holding accounts. Now, I will say this section is optional. So you can decide to toggle this on and not worry about it, or you can decide to toggle it on and decide to actually customize how transactions are coming through. Now, by default, the program actually when a purchase or a sale is made, it will automatically code to the relevant investment account in your chart of accounts. So if it sees that you've got BHP in your chart of accounts, it will code to that account. Or let's say that you even don't have BHP in the account. With the contract note feed, it actually automatically creates the accounts if it identifies that you don't already have it in your chart of accounts, which is really cool. But with the linked accounts feature, what it does allow you to do is create multiple accounts for the same investment if you decide you want to do that. So let's say I go to my chart of accounts and I decide that I want to have BHP one account and then another account for BHP shares. Now, we find that some users, before they had this option, they wanted the ability to be able to have multiple investment accounts of the same investment, but split off in case they have multiple data feeds going on. So they might decide that, hey, I want the broker for this broker purchases and sales to go to one BHP account, and you might set up another broker to go and do purchases and sales for the same investment account, but it gets coded into a different account. And then that way you can select, hey, where do you want the transactions to go to? So again, it is optional, only if you want that flexibility in it. But if you're happy for it to go to the single investment account, simply you can toggle it off and not have to necessarily worry about it. If you do toggle it on, but you haven't necessarily ticked everything, again, as long as you haven't ticked anything, it will by default go to the first investment account that it finds in your chart of accounts that relate to those shares accounts. So hopefully that makes sense there. We're going to click on save, and I'm going to go into my transaction screen to give you an idea of what it looks like when transactions come through. So from the left-hand menu, I'm going to go to accounting and transaction list. I'm going to filter this just to show you the transaction that have come through contract notes to show you what it's going to look like and what to kind of expect. Now, with these transactions, here's a purchase and a disposal. You can see that it is automatically coded. And that's the thing about contract notes. With this contract note service, is it automatically codes the transactions. So not only does it find the account, if it doesn't find it, then it'll create it in your chart of accounts, but it'll also code the transaction as well in your transaction screen. Also, it complements any bank feeds that you might have. So for example, if you've got a bank feed for the bank side or a CSV upload for the bank side, if the program can actually identify which of those transactions are those disposals and those purchases as well and match them off together automatically. Okay, so it does a lot of the work for you, really. Now, I'll also mention that it does handle multiple transactions on a single day. So for example, let's say you have one day where one transaction is actually a purchase of multiple shares. It will be able to identify that if the date and the amount equal a group of investment purchases or sales, then it'll be able to identify that they all become part of the transaction itself. Okay, so it does handle that too. You'll see a paperclip icon next to the transaction, and that just indicates that it's also uploaded the documentation. So if I click on the paperclip icon, it'll populate or take me to the document screen where I can view the actual contract note documentation there. And the great thing about that is it also labels it because everything's been done automatically for you. It can also label the documents. And for those that attended the work papers webinar that we had before, just by and the smart docs even as well, just by labeling these documents, it will ensure that these flow through into the work paper screen. So if I go into my work paper screen and I head over to the shares account, I can see those documents have also been linked automatically to, okay, which is really cool. Now, a question that we often get as well with the contract note feed is, does it support historical transactions? And the answer is yes. As long as you can get the historical contract notes to this email address, so either you ask the broker to send the historical notes to that email address, or if you find the documentation yourself, you can email that documentation to this email address and the program will be able to produce those transactions for you. Now, if you look on the right-hand side, you've got an arrow icon. Now, the cool thing about the arrow icon is it is a re-request transactions button. So if you do an upload and you decide to delete those transactions from your transaction screen, click on the request transactions button and that'll bring those transactions back. Now, another button which is important is the envelope button. Now, with the envelope button, that'll take you to your contract notes log. This will give you a log, just like Gmail or Hotmail, whichever one that you like to use. But it gives you a log of all the emails that have come through, all the contract notes that have come through that email address. So you'll be able to see that it has come through, and you can click on the transaction button to see the transaction that is just posted, and click on the paperclip icon to view the actual document itself. Now, important to note here is if you tick the transaction from this screen, a delete button is going to pop up. Now, if you delete a transaction or this contract note from the contract note log, it actually deletes it for good from this log here. Now, what that means is it not only deletes the transaction from your transaction screen, but it also deletes the contract note itself from that email address. So that way you won't be able to re-request that transaction back unless you resend the contract note again. Okay, so that's something to be very wary of to delete something from the contract notes log. So you have to be very sure that that's exactly what you do want to do. Okay. Now let's move on ahead because there's still a bit more to go through. So that's the contract note feed. The next feed that we're going to talk about is our wraps and platforms feed. Now, we will get to registry data, the second part of shared data packs, but I wanted to spend some more time on wraps and platforms first. So with our wraps and platforms, this isn't an add-on to the program. It comes part and parcel of the actual subscription itself. So you can use this whenever you want, no extra charge. But what this does is it automates the transactions from your wraps investments. So you get your investment movements, you get your income transactions, bank transactions as well, and even foreign transactions too. Now, the example that we're going to go through today is for net wealth. I've chosen net wealth because it's going to give you the best idea of what it's going to look like when you set this up, or if you decide to set this up, regardless of which wrap platform that you do choose. There are going to be little nuances with each one, but this will give you the best idea overall of what it's going to look like. Now, if you want to have a look at the supported wrap feeds, we'll post it also into the chat. So you'll be able to see a list of supported wrap investment platforms. But here's a tip is don't be afraid to log a support call, especially if you're doing this for the first time. So if you, let's say, are going through Macquarie or any of the other wrap feeds, and there are some little things here and there that you're not quite aware of, at least you've got somebody to talk to help you through that process. But we'll get into the program itself, and I'll show you how that looks like, how it works, and how to set that up as well. Okay, so back into the program. On the left-hand side, we're going to go into Connect and Feed Management. Now, in our feed management screen, at the bottom of the screen, you've got wraps and platforms. Now, to set up a brand new wrap and platform, you can click on the setup button to set this up. And this is one I've prepared earlier, but it will give you the same screen that you're looking at when you click on the setup button. And same thing, you work your way down the screen. So first thing, you've got the entity. Second thing, you've got the feed provider. So again, you can select from here, whichever feed provider that you want to select. Now, if you remember from before, you've got the setup button, so you can set up multiple feed providers if you do want to. You've got the account ID. Now, this is a point where it's going to change depending on which provider that you want to set up. So in most cases, it's just the account number that you'll be entering in here. But definitely check the documentation for whichever wrap platform that you're setting up to tell you what to enter in that account ID field. You've got your bank account. So this is a bank account that you would have set up on your chart of accounts just for this wraps and platforms account there. Now, do not import before. Now, this is going to be important here. So with, I would say nearly every single one of our wrap feeds, it does support historical information. Now, this data is important because as soon as the feed starts running, it's going to get all the transactions back until the last create entries date in your entity. Okay, so if you don't want the program to go back that far, which is okay, maybe you've done the transactions manually yourself and you decided just from a date onwards that you want to automate the whole process, make sure that you do enter the appropriate date in this field here. Okay, so very important. You've also got a three dot icon that allows you to put a date when to stop the actual feed itself. So if you want to stop the feed at any date, you can put that there or leave it blank and the program will keep processing transactions. Here you've got feed enabled, so you can quickly disable and enable the field whenever you do want to. You can decide to import foreign transactions as well. And you've also got the ability to do account mapping, similar to like we had with the contract notes as well. Now, important, I guess an extra caveat with the wraps and platforms is you've got a bit more control over the account mapping. So yes, you can also create separate accounts for the same investments, but we've also added more options in terms of control accounts. So here you can specify a portfolio code from the platform and tell it where it needs to go within your chart of accounts. Now, this might be important for some users. Let's say that you want all the investments under a certain wrap account to be under the same control account, maybe. And maybe that's how you want to appear on your financial statements. So if that's the case, make sure that you've got your account created in your chart of accounts and you've assigned it the appropriate portfolio code as well. But if you're happy with it just going to the standard, BHP account or the normal, shares account or wherever it will go to, then you wouldn't have to worry about the mapping itself. This is just if you want to have that control over how it appears in the financial reports. So we're going to click on save. I'm going to exit that there. And I'm going to go back to my transaction screen and show you an example of what, again, same thing, what you should be expecting when transactions start coming through. Okay. Now, I'll filter this screen to show you those transactions. So you've got the transactions like uh, investment purchases, you've got income, you've got foreign transactions in there. So all those types of transactions are supported. Now, the great thing about the article that we've just linked to you there is with that article, now I'll pop it up in case that you just want to see it on my screen. Maybe that's a bit easier for you. But the great thing about this article is not only do you have a link to each of the supported wrap accounts, but also we tell you what type of transactions we do support. Okay, so whether you get your bank transactions in the feed, your buys and sells, income transactions, and also historical data. You can see for the vast majority, nearly all of them have historical data as well. Now, an important thing to note about these wraps and platforms feed. The wraps and platforms feed is their design for investments that are recorded where all the underlying investments are recorded as separate accounts. Now, for those of you that have experience with wrap accounts and recorded them in Simple Fund and Simple Invest 360, you might be aware that there are multiple ways of doing it. Some people like to record it as a single line investment where they record the market movement to that one investment account, or they like to have it split up with all the individual investments in the chart of accounts and in the financial reports. If you're going to use a wrap and platform feed, you have to split them up in terms of the underlying investments. So they all have to appear in your yeah, in your chart of accounts as underlying investments. Now, with that being said, if you have been recording them as a single line item, that's perfectly fine. Although you won't be able to use the wraps and platforms feed if you decide to keep it that way, there are other options for you. So in tomorrow's webinar, when we go through distributions with Paddy, he'll talk about a feed that allows you to automate the annual tax statements for wrap accounts using a single line investment. So that's something to look out for that webinar there. So again, we haven't forgotten about you that like to record it that certain way. There are options for you to automate that process too. Now, we're almost at the 30-minute mark, so I'll go really quickly into the next feed. It doesn't actually take too long to go through, but this is our registry data feed. And this is the second half of our shared data pack. What this does is it gives you the holding balances for your shares. So it compares it with our supported registries, which is Computershare, MUFG, and Boardroom, and displays all that information in the one single screen. The setup is very easy and it's very easy to use the balance review screen too. So we're going to go into um, the program again. To set up on the left-hand menu, we'll go into Connect and Feed Management. Now, in our feed management screen, you've got registry data. And on the right-hand side, we've got the edit button to set this up. And all you have to do from here is set up the HIN or SRN and postcode next to each investment. Now, a quick way of doing it is you can enter those details in here, click on apply to all, and that'll instantly apply it there. But also you've got the ability to add in a default HIN as well, and that'll instantly apply. Now, as soon as you enter those details and click save, the feed is up and running too. Now, what do you actually get out of this? On the left-hand side is investments and balance review. And this is the screen that you'll be utilizing that information from those registries. Basically, what this screen does is it, on the left-hand side, has the information from the registries or the third-party data. So it also collects information from any other wrap feeds that you might have or bank data feeds that you might have and compares it to the information that you've recorded in your software. So here you can compare and you can see if there's any variances. So maybe you've, misrecorded something, you'll be able to see it from here, or maybe you're missing some transactions as well. You can see it from here. We also provide filters. So firstly, you've got data provider, so you can filter this by different data providers as well. You've got your holding reference. So if you want to filter it by a holding reference, you can show the registered name in the spreadsheet. You can also show zero balances, so anything without, I guess, any units in it, or you can filter it so that it only shows you the ones where it has a variance in it. Now on the right-hand side, you've got the ability to export the report. So you can export the current view, so which the filters that you have on, or you can export the full report and it will export it into a PDF like so. Now, what I will mention as well is the information that you do get. So as soon as you hit the save button, the program is designed to go back the last 4 quarters to pull this information for. So one financial year worth of information that it actually populates in the screen. And then going forward, every quarter, the program will update with the holding balances. Now, there's nothing you have to do. You don't have to click on like the download button or anything like that. It just does it automatically for you.